Hey guys, welcome back to Precision Rifle Network. Joel here. So today we are answering all of your beginner/noob questions about precision long range shooting. Let's get into it. Guys, first go check out Coltac, coltac.com. Use code PRN10 to get you 10% off of anything that Dustin sells on Coltac. And that's little notebooks like this, there's ammo novels, there's barricade bags, there's just a little bit of everything over there. And you can save 10% by using code PRN10 to get you 10% off at Coltac. All right, so over the years, I have been asked so many questions by new or beginner shooters who just don't know what they don't know at this point, right? This is entirely why. This is the reason why we created our online training, online coaching over on school.com/Precision Rifle Network. You can go search for it. There's a link actually in the description. So if you're interested in getting higher level access to myself and a couple other industry pros who will answer your questions, spend time with you, encourage you, teach you, coach you up, go check that out. But what I'm doing today is I've got a big long list of the types of questions that new or beginning shooters want to know about. They ask these types of things, and so I'm just going to go down this list and I'm going to do my best to answer these questions the best way that I know how, and that's it. So grab your beverage, grab your snack, and buckle in because this is going to be a slightly longer video. Here we go with question number 1. What even is long-range precision shooting? What are we talking about? Is it like a certain distance? This is a really common question. Here's my answer to that. From your zero, whether that be 35 yards, 36 yards with an AR, whether that be 100 yards with a standard centerfire, maybe it's even 200 yards with your favorite hunting rifle, inside of 300 yards. 300 yards and less is just normal. That's just everyday shooting. Most rifles that you pick up and want to run are less than that distance for most people. 300 to 1200 yards is considered precision long range because it takes a little bit more knowledge, a little bit more skill set. You got to understand your data of your rifle. You got to understand drop and wind drift and all those types of things in order to get consistent impacts on targets in those distances, or even to compete in Precision Rifle Series style of competitions. Now, beyond 1200 yards is what we call ELR, or extreme long range. There are competitions out there called the King of 2 Mile, for example, and I know shots begin at somewhere like 12 to 1500 yards. 1 mile is 1760. They have 2 mile shots in that competition. That's extreme long range. So less than 300, normal everyday shooting. 300 to 1200, long range precision. 1200 and beyond, extreme long range. All right, next question. Is 1,000 yards something a normal guy can do, or is it just YouTubers running $10,000 rifle setups? Get that one a lot, actually, because most YouTubers want to show off their nice guns, right? Like, very seldom do you get very many videos with bare bones budget setups shooting those distances. Now, you can find them on our channel, you can find them on other guys' channels too, just to prove that it can be done. But the answer to that question is, a normal person can realistically shoot 1,000 yards. If I took you out to the range with just a normal over-the-counter big box store hunting rifle that I have in my safe right now, and showed you how to get down behind the rifle, talked to you a little bit about the drop data and all those kinds of things, and a minimal amount about wind, I guarantee that you're going to get an impact at 1,000 yards in less than 10 shots, and that's going to happen in less than an hour's worth of time. Pretty much can guarantee it. It's not that difficult when you have an experienced person kind of walk you through it. Now, if you're brand new and you just want to go out, I suggest maybe not starting with 1,000 yards, right? Like, let's get proficient at some closer distances and start to understand your system, your rifle, ballistics, wind, all those kinds of things, and work your way out, right? But yes, I think it's doable for the average dude to go out there with the average rifle and hit 1,000 yards. What is the difference between a precision rifle and a hunting rifle? Sometimes there's no difference. You can have a precision hunting rifle that has kind of a crossover feature. Guys will hunt with it, They'll compete with it. They'll do various different types of target shooting with it, and it can do a little bit of everything. That being said, it's kind of like different tools for a different job, right? Like you go into your toolbox right now, you got a bunch of different screwdrivers and a bunch of different hammers and different types of pliers. Why? Because different tools for different jobs. So if you're wanting to compete in PRS style competition, for example, that's going to be one type of rifle, one type of tool. If it's hunting you want to do in the backcountry, you're going to be climbing up mountains all day. Well, you're going to be almost directly opposite of that kind of a rifle for hunting versus PRS style competition in terms of weight and a lot of other things. And if, for example, you just want to get out and plank, you can use whatever the heck you want. But there are some differences, different tools for different jobs. That's what you need to keep in mind when you're talking about that sort of a context. All right, so why did these rifles like the Ruger Precision Rifle or the Bergara Premier rifles or the Tikka, entry-level rifles, why do they all look like tactical space guns instead of traditional wood stock rifles? The quick and easy answer is personal preference. People like certain things. Most dudes want we've all grew up playing army men, right? We all want to secretly kind of be the sniper sneaking through the grass taking out the bad guy, right? So the tactical look, that or law enforcement, and there's more tactical styles. People like the tactical look. It just seems cool, right? So just being completely honest, when it comes to aesthetics of a rifle, people just want the cool looking thing. But there is some functionality to that. Like your traditional, kind of stripped down, sleek, non-adjustable wood stock on your old Grandpappy's, 270, it's fine for hunting. If you don't want any bells and whistles, if you don't really care too much about how it fits you, you're only taking a shot at 200 yards or less on a deer-sized target. And hey, if it's brown, it's down. If you're one of those guys, more power to you. You go do what you want to do, and I won't judge you too much. But if you want to compete in PRS-style competition, for example, well, something that's fully adjustable, for length of pull and a cheek riser and something that you can attach some weights to. There's all kinds of reasons that guys go with the tactical Timmy kind of a, space gun look. Usually because there's more adjustability and functionality in those chassis. Traditional stocks just tend to not have all of those features. Now, there are some companies that do a really good job, like Manners stocks, for example, or Graybow. So that's something to consider if you want to go one of those routes. Chassis versus stock. This kind of goes in with the last one, so I'm going to keep it kind of short. What's the big deal with the chassis versus stock? Adjustability. It really comes down to adjustability. Some stocks have a lot more adjustability than a standard kind of run-of-the-mill sleek wood stock of yesteryear, but chassis have a lot of adjustability, a lot of attachment points, things that you can change and just kind of customize the way you want to make it the better tool for the job you're going to do. Hopefully that answers that question. All right, back to factory rifles. Is the Ruger Precision Rifle or a Tikka or a Bergara Premier, are these kind of over-the-counter rifles? Are these considered the budget level rifles, or does a guy have to have something more expensive in order to shoot this sport? That one's pretty involved. I'm going to try to keep that shorter. You can absolutely take an over-the-counter Ruger Precision Rifle and hunt with it or plink with it or compete with it. It kind of is a Swiss Army knife kind of a tool. Another Swiss Army knife kind of rifle is the Sig Cross, for example. You can change out the barrels, you can hunt with it, they're generally lightweight, you can do a carbon barrel on it, for example, in a certain caliber for hunting, and then switch to a different caliber barrel and run it in competition. You could add some weight to it because the chassis got some M-LOK slots, and so you could add weight to it if you need to balance that rifle out, or just add weight to help mitigate recoil. Like, there are some rifles out there that are kind of over-the-counter and lower dollar amount rifles that you can do a little bit of everything with, but it's just one of those things. Budget, like a millionaire, his idea of budget might be a $5,000 rifle, right? But your blue collar worker making 60 grand a year, his budget rifle might be a $500 rifle. You get the idea. And so it's kind of a hard question to answer. Generally speaking, a rifle in the neighborhoods of, $800 to $1,200 is considered a budget level rifle to most people, I would say. And while we're on that, what about optics? I would say a budget level optic that'll still be a good quality, that'll get done what you need to get done, is something like an Arkin optics. Some of the Vortex scopes, Arkins run about $500. There's D&T optics, which is very similar to Arkin. They're around that $500 price range. You get some Vortex scopes that are in that $700, $800, $900 range that would be pretty decent. Generally speaking, you want to spend more on your optic than you do on your rifle, or an equivalent amount. Now, if you start with a $5,000 rifle, you're totally fine to go ahead and just put a $2,500 scope on your setup, and you're going to have a really nice setup. But if you spend, let's say, $800 on your rifle and it shoots okay, you're getting sub-MOA groups with it, great, run that rifle. But you're going to be a happier camper if you spend more money on a quality optic. So you can get a lot done with a $500 Arkin or D&T or something like that, but you're going to be happier if you go with, let's say, a $1,500 Maven optics, or you're going to go with a $2,500 Leupold Mark V, or a Night Force for $3,000. You're going to be a lot happier the more money you spend on optics. It just really is the way that it is. All right, what caliber should I even start with? I hear 6.5 Creedmoor tossed around a lot. I hear that the 308 is dead. Well, I'm here to tell you the 308 is not dead. Kinda. Most people don't use it anymore for precision long-range shooting. It's just the wrong tool for the job. Back to context, we want something that's flat shooting, great trajectory, really bucks the wind, kind of a faster projectile if possible. 308's old, fat, and slow, kind of like me. And the newer, sleeker, slimmer models are generally preferable, especially for competition, even for hunting at certain distances, right? Like the 308 is fine. Will it do the job? It will do the job, absolutely. But I kind of think the 6.5 Creedmoor is now the new 308. It's like anybody that I'm telling to get into long range these days, I'm not telling them to start with a 308, because that's a little bit of a handicap that they don't need to have to work through. Would you be a better shooter if you started with 308 and learned to shoot a 308 with its higher recoil, and learned to call wind with a 308, and got really good with a 308, and then switched to a 6.5 Creedmoor or a 6mm of some variant? Yeah, I think you might be. But that doesn't necessarily mean you should or have to do that. I think you can start with a 6.5 Creedmoor these days and learn how to run that really, really well before changing calibers. And in fact, you may find you just don't ever need to change out of a 6.5 Creedmoor. It really is the Swiss Army knife of calibers right now. You can do just about anything you want in North America with a 6.5 Creedmoor. Depending on the type of bullet you use, and if you're going to hand load, and what kind of speeds you want, and what kind of energies you might need for whatever you might be hunting, that caveat thrown in there, 6.5 Creedmoor is pretty dang versatile, and I think it's a really, really good choice for beginners. This hobby seems incredibly expensive. Am I going to need to get into hand loading in order to be able to even afford ammo? The answer to that is one that only you can answer based on your own budget. If you are starting off and you have no reloading equipment at all, you're gonna reload a lot of rounds before you actually start to recoup the cost and make it cheaper overall than just buying factory ammo. Factory ammo is really, really good these days. It's approaching the same level, in some cases, it's approaching the same level as your hand-loaded ammo. Now, with a little bit of more skill set, some know-how, some experience, and some proper reloading equipment, you can absolutely get way better results hand-loading than you can with factory ammo. But that being said, if you find a factory ammo that shoots, 3/4 to half-inch groups at 100 yards out of your factory rifle, you just really don't need anything better than that. It won't be the ammo in the rifle that handicaps you when it comes time to take that deer at 400 yards. Or if you're going to get into PRS-style competition, it won't be that ammo most of the time. Until you start getting these tiny little targets that some of the matches throw at you, it won't be that ammo that causes you to miss. It'll be your fundamentals, it'll be your trigger press, your breathing, your follow through, your body position. It'll be your lack of ability to call the wind correctly. It'll be something like that that causes you to miss before the ammo will. So I would say you can probably go for an awful long time just using factory match grade ammunition through your rifle, and you don't need to worry about reloading. Maybe you start getting into reloading a piece at a time. You gather a piece of gear here and there, and garage sales, and for sale sites like sections on like Sniper's Hide or something like that, or Facebook Marketplace. You can find some groups that are selling old stuff. Maybe you collect a piece at a time and you get into it slowly. And then you begin to reload some of that brass that you've been saving from all of your factory ammo. And over time, it might start to save you some money, especially if you're shooting a lot of rounds. But if you're not shooting that many, it's kind of a time and opportunity cost for me. Like, how much time is it going to take to buy all the stuff for reloading, master it, get really good at producing better ammo, and start to save money? Like, maybe the few cents a round that I save isn't quite worth the time and effort that it takes to do it. That's my questioning to you, but it kind of boils down to whatever you want to spend and whatever you want to do and how deep down this rabbit hole you want to go. What magnification do I want on my scope? So again, back to different tools for different jobs. Let's say you're just plinking at targets. Well, you could do a 1 to 10 times LPVO and stretch out to 1,000 yards. You're going to be hindered by it, because it's not the right tool for the job, but it can be done. Maybe for hunting, you want a 2.5 to 15, or a 3 to 9, or a 4.5 to 14, or something like that for hunting, because you don't need crazy amounts of magnification, because you're probably not going to take a shot on an animal at 800, 1,000, 1,200 yards. Most people aren't. We're not getting into animal hunting ethics here today, but most people aren't taking that shot. They're taking a shot at 300 to 500 yards, 200 to 500 yards for hunting. And they just don't need that kind of a massive magnification to be able to see all the detail downrange. But for, let's say, precision rifle series style of competition, the vast majority of shooters are using somewhere around a 5 to 25 power optic. And most guys that I have heard or seen or talked to are somewhere in the, let's say 14 to 22 power range for just about everything they do in competition. Whether it's a target at 300 yards or whether it's a target at 1,200 yards, they're going to be somewhere in that 14 to 20 to 22 power range, with the average being, let's say, 17, 18 power. That's in all the matches that I've ever run. I've always kind of defaulted to somewhere in that 18 power range, and that's just about perfect. You still got a wide enough field of view to see the things you need to see. You're powered in far enough that you can spot your impacts or your misses if you need to downrange, but you're not powered out so far that your reticle becomes so tiny you can't even see it, and those sorts of things. So hopefully that answers that question. How loud is a braked 6.5 Creedmoor, really? Will it destroy my hearing even with plugs and muffs? We might chuckle at that a little bit, because But remember, brand new shooters, they just don't know what they don't know. Brakes are horrible in terms of shooting. Now, I went for probably the first 4 years of competition using a 3 or 4 port muzzle brake back then, and nothing wrong with it. It works really well. Brakes are still some of the best choices for competition, but what started to happen to me over time was that I started getting headaches from the concussion of the blast with muzzle brakes. Being on a line or next to other shooters who are also using brakes, and you're just getting pounded from those shock waves all day long and the loud noise. It really started to get to me. I do nothing but shoot suppress now. Everything I do is suppressed. I don't care that the recoil impulse is a little bit different and all that kind of stuff. That it changes my ability to spot impacts and misses slightly. It's controllable, it's manageable, but I would much rather have the quieter sound. So the answer is no. If you're wearing, especially if you're wearing like foamy earplugs and then muffs over the top, you're going to be fine, but you are going to feel that concussive force of those rounds going off and the brakes. And it doesn't matter if it's 6.5 Creedmoor or 6mm Dasher or 308, they all have a concussive force, especially with a muzzle brake. And it's going to pound your head, it's going to pound your body, and over time that's going to compound and it becomes worse and worse. I think most folks that have been around these types of ranges and this type of shooting for any length of time will agree with that. I have personally switched over to only running suppressed rifles as much as I possibly can because it keeps it enjoyable. Hopefully that answers your question. User beware, always wear your hearing protection as much as you possibly can, and or buy a suppressor. You'll be happy. Do these rifles need to be broken in, or can I just begin shooting right away? Yes. Maybe I just need to leave it there and make you go research. It really depends. Like, you could take a brand new rifle out. Now, I personally, it's just a recommendation. There's no right or wrong here, right? Like, some people will get on the internet and puff themselves up and start trying to talk like they're the end-all be-all authority on all these things and they know best. And if you don't do what they're doing, you're just a retard, right? But that's just not the way that it is. You can pick and choose. Most manufacturers will say, for best practice, go ahead and clean your rifle as soon as you get it. Now, I recommend that because there are, maybe tooling dust, little pieces of, metal scrap from cutting the barrel or anything like that. Now, they should have cleaned it at the factory. They should have shot rounds through it at the factory, and that stuff shouldn't be in there. But you just never know. So I always clean a brand new rifle first, right out of the gate, just so that I know that everything is out of the barrel and everything is good to go. And then what I will generally do is I will fire an initial group, let's say 5 rounds or something like that. While I'm initially setting up my scope, I'll fire about 5 rounds out of a brand new rifle so that I can try to get things situated the way that I want. If that rifle is firing really, really well right out of the gate, I might clean it at that point and then just go straight into running it. I just don't even care. If I'm getting any kind of inconsistencies, I will then go into a break-in phase on my rifles after those first 5 rounds. So I see what the thing's going to do in the first 5 rounds. I get an idea if it's a freaking tack driver right out of the gate or if maybe it needs a little bit of help. And if it maybe needs a little bit of help, I'll stop at that point, I'll clean, I'll come back and I'll shoot a couple of shots, I'll clean, I'll shoot a couple of shots, I'll clean, and I'll repeat that for probably 20, 30, 40 rounds or something like that. And then I'll just run it no matter what, and whatever kind of accuracy it gets and whatever kind of consistency it gets is just what that gun and that barrel is capable of. That's the best way that I can answer it. That's what I do. I'm not saying I'm perfectly right on all of it. Maybe use your user's manual from, if you're buying a gun over the counter, look at your user's manual and just do what it says. If you're buying a custom rifle from some builder, ask them what they do as a brand new shooter. Like, you just go ask people and say, what do you do? But I guarantee you ask 10 people and you're probably going to get 7 different answers. So it really just comes down to you going, well, I'm not 100% certain what I should do, so I like what this guy said best, so I'm just going to go do that. Wind calling. I've heard wind reading is very difficult. How do I learn how to call wind? How do I get better at it? Yeah, it is the art form. Where everything else in this sport is kind of science and math, wind reading, for the most part, is an art form. I really do think the best way to learn wind is by hanging out with experienced people who can teach you how to call wind better. There are some cool tips and tricks and ways that you can go about this. Shameless plug here. We have an online instructional site on skool.com, skool.com/precision-rifle-network. And you can go on there. There's a link in the description. And I have an entire online masterclass course called the Wind Mastery System. And you can go on there and learn the exact way that I have come about calling wind. And this is, I've taken, last time I checked, 10 or 11 different professional level precision long range courses over the years. I've learned how some of the best pros in the industry call wind, and I have shamelessly stolen some of the things that I've learned from them, and I have adapted other things based on my own experience, and I've come up with a wind mastery system where you can learn all about wind calling and the best ways, I think, to do that. And I guarantee you, if you do my way, and I'm not saying my way is better than anybody else's, I'm just saying I know from experience, because I've taught a lot of people how to do it. If you use my wind mastery system that you can learn about on the Skool page, you will get better at calling wind, flat out. If you're here and you need to learn something about wind, you do my wind mastery system, you're immediately going to be up here with your wind calling. That's just all there is to it. So hang out with people who know how to do it, ask them questions, learn the tips and tricks that they know, and just after time, after a number of rounds, after a bunch of matches, after whatever it is, time in the field practicing these things, you will begin to get a sense of what it takes to call wind correctly and accurately. All right, guys, that is a pretty long video. I'm going to go ahead and finish it off right there. I've actually got about 50 more beginner or newbie questions sitting here in front of me. We could just keep going on and on and on with this. Maybe we'll do a part 2 if you guys like this video. What would be helpful, if you've watched this far and you didn't leave already, awesome, thank you. You guys rock. Can you just give me a thumbs up? Can you comment and just, say, hey, appreciate the video or something? Not for my ego, but just because of the algorithms. That interaction is really important to YouTube. And if you want to share this with a newer shooter, that I think could be really helpful to them. Maybe answer some of their questions and that sort of thing. That would be great. Guys, thanks for watching Precision Rifle Network today. Stay tuned for another great video.